Hello, Starcraft fans, and welcome to a recast from Replays. I was not able to catch this match live as it happened during Korean time zones, and I sometimes like to sleep, believe it or not. So, that being said, I present to you the best of 5 finals between Parting and Sue. Spawning here to the top left side of the field, we have the blue Protoss player. He is Parting. And to the bottom right, famously known for second place, but can also be number 1, it's Sue. Now, before we get into too much of this, I'm going to audibly leave a note in for Rifkin when he goes back and edits this, because he's a terrible editor. I miss Will so much. He's in school. He'll be back eventually, I hope. Anyways, Rifkin, remember to find the date this was played and include it in the description of the video, okay? Okay, 2 thumbs up. Also, please make sure to subscribe to our Poor Dead YouTube channel. Thanks. Okay, so this is gonna be a full best of 5. I don't know the results of this. I didn't get to see this play live. What I do know is the results of Parting versus Zerg in general recently, and more notably with players like Armani. Now, granted, Sue and Armani are not the same player, and I would argue quite heavily Sue's a probably better player than Armani. But Parting has, for lack of better memes, been twisting his way to victory, and most notably got into another season of GSL qualifying over Zerg once again, and particularly poor Armani. So we saw Parting versus Zerg in the ESL NA finals. We've seen Parting versus Zerg across the world in Korea. I have to imagine here on the Korean Cup, this is probably going to be a series that I would imagine favors Parting. But as I said, don't know the results. We'll find out as we go through these games together. As he does do a little bit of a very annoying harass in the main base. You can see, by the way, Sue just got jetted over to the third. Parting's one of these guys who will totally use this probe to be super annoying. He'll pylon block. Hell, he'll cannon rush you. So sometimes it's best to just try and avoid conflict with that probe and not get too far behind because of it. So yeah, Sue just gets right to mining over here. And at this point too, even if there was the threat of something wild like cannons, like the creep is spreading, there's not any real danger here. The probe micro is actually like some next level stuff. But anyways, you can see the Zealot that was chronoed out very quickly comes across the field. As this arrives in time, it'll find no defenders. This is super frustrating because even if a queen spawned, the Zealot can actually take on a queen one-on-one. Well, depending on the micro and the assist. But the probe, oh, you know, it absorbs a couple of shots. It dies, but gives a little bit more life to the Zealot effectively. This thing, I don't think, is meant to really be ending the game. It can in some situations, but Sue, this is the worst case scenario for him. He's so far cut off from his main. The other queens can't walk down the ramp through no creep. As I just mentioned moments ago, a Zealot can 1v1 a queen. The Adept is just like icing on the cake at this point. So yeah, goes for drone kills, doesn't want to chase the queen down because she would just kite both these units away until reinforcements arrive. Parting in turn will get cleaned up by the looks of it. But this was a huge disruption to Sue's economy. I mean, his income was thrown off by this, not just through drones dying, but through mining time lost. I'm going to open the graph real quick. Yep, you can see Parting got some very nice leads out of that over his opponent. Now, he, of course, does have his own Nexus, and that's what makes this really brutal. We also have Resonating Glaives coming out. A very aggressive style to play right now, but one that has been pretty prominently flavor of the month, and I guess favor of the month, too, for that misspeak. Now, one of the Adepts won't get through, so he cancels the building to rebuild it? I don't know about that. I think he wanted to save it was the ultimate goal and have 2 Adepts to work with, but in doing so, it's got really dangerous. Got really tight, too, but looks like he will hold here. But going back to the Resonating Glaives point, depending on the amount of gateways really measures how all in versus just harassing this is. And right now, it's kind of hard to make heads or tails of it because Parting does only have 4 gateways. But some of these are part of the wall, the SimCity put down desperately. I think the Overlord's got a lot of freedom to scout. I'm actually really surprised it doesn't just go all the way into the main, but perhaps Sue has seen enough. At the same time, we should note back for our Zerg player, he didn't cut workers and start going for some all-in himself. He's actually playing out of this. So his income and his economy is starting to take over. But that's kind of the goal for Parting at this point going forward. He's not sitting here hoping to exchange minor blows. Like, attacks like this are supposed to do some serious damage. But with a 5th, no, this is only 4 gateways. Yeah, this isn't really that all in, all things considered. The commitment to minerals and kind of stalling out your tech is usually what makes this well, considered more all-in than not. The Dark Shrine also starts up for partying back at home. So there is a follow-up plan to this, whether it's cheesy DTs or just straight up Archons. Either way, Sue can't build any other drones and he knows it. Look at that. He's handling this pretty well to start. Honestly, the amount of the aggression from these queens, they're being backed up by creeps spreading as we speak. There's spore crawlers down too. Roach is coming out as well. And the big thing is, no matter how powerful a Protoss player is, you shut down the Warp Prism, you shut down their attack. The queens unfortunately have not been able to achieve that goal yet. As parting continues to advance forward, these adepts, they're mostly just taking shield damage, so he's regenerating a lot of that lost health. Oh, this transfer, it's no way he's gonna let this go through. It's gonna be suicide. Yeah, the Zerglings are already on top of it. Parting's effectively already done something really great with this attack though. The threat of it, notice he's not super committed to it yet, but the threat of this attack was enough to really distract Sue. His economy was thrown off. Sue's now been lulled into this false sense of security where he's building drones as Parting's about to warp some DTs into the main base. And oh my god, it's the only position Sue doesn't have detection. Spore crawlers are everywhere else. The recall goes in. Full distraction. While the DTs get here, he's gonna focus down the main. Oh, this is so gross. He should be able to kill us. He's gonna transfuse it. Sue's gotta transfuse it if he wants any chance to save this base. And even then, he still doesn't save it. Parting loses the DTs for it. I don't think he can recover the Archon. But this was a pretty big tech stall out for Sue. Not only does it just kill a base and thus really hurt our Zerg players' economy, no lair. No lair means no overseers. No overseers means any offensive attack is stopped by DTs. Granted, Parting has quite a bit of an army mounted up back at home, and he's building some shield batteries as we speak. I think with the overcharge, he should be totally set, to be honest. But Sue, like I said, just without detection, there's no way to really commit to a counterattack. So this is a wild situation where this Zerg player has this massive army, but he just literally can't do anything with it, because if he does, he throws it away. So I like the feigned aggression Sue put out there. Making Parting build those shield batteries, for example, is just gonna waste a chip away at him. And as far as the resources lost so far, this has been a much more costly endeavor for Parting, who's on 2 bases, now going 3. So I like Parting's position, but I really like the way Sue's handled things so far. Very much so keeping it calm and cool. Roach speed. It's so weird. The Zerg buildings bleed out, obviously, if they don't have creeps. So you see this like blood coming out of the spore crawler gushing out, but yeah, this is researching Roach speed and should be fed some creep here by the hatchery soon. Disruptors though do change things up a bit. For Parting, an adept in Archon and Immortals and whatever army he would have had would be overwhelmed straight up by a large Roach Ravager attack. But because there's going to be disruptors in play, now he's got that area of effect damage to perhaps take out a large chunk of the front line. Namely the Banelings too, if they come into play. Baneling speed's on the way. I don't know if we'll see Banelings before then or not, but yeah, being forced to dart back and forth like this. I mean, Parting doesn't have God mode vision. He's got some pretty good map coverage though, with the probe patrolling and these entrances opened, but while all that's covered, he still doesn't know where Sue's army is as we speak. Makes this incredibly difficult for him to be in the right position to defend. Sue, on the other hand, also doesn't really know too much about what Parting's doing, but he should see this Warp Prism, I think? No. Middle? No way. Okay, so he doesn't actually see this moving out with the disruptors. I mean, typically Zerg players, they're not going to have mutas, they're not going to have hydras, they're not going to have really anti-air, period. So there's some freedom for the Warp Prism to be out there, but at the same time, he really can't get complacent about this. Also, I'm not sure why it's showing the War Chest Team Link. I think I have to remove a file for that. Just to be clear, this is not from the War Chest Team Link. War Chest Team Link's pretty awesome. I think there's like a logos mod or something I have to go tweak, but this is not a match from that, just to be clear. Wish I had known that before we jumped into it, but I'm not gonna go redo 9.5 minutes because I noticed it. We'll fix it for the game too. Okay, Spore Crawler Queen in a good position to ward this off. You know, disruptors have pretty long range. I think like effectively they get like 15 or something with the way the disruption ball and the movement works, but you can't go up a cliff with that. So unfortunately, falling back's the only real option. Killing the Spore Crawler would have been nice though. We're trying to check the main. Oh, we do have a bit of a tech spot from Sue. I didn't catch that, by the way. I just noticed the spire in the production tab. This is gonna be really great for the transition, right? When there's Colossus in play, Corruptors can tear him down pretty quickly. Right now, I don't think there's like a need for Mutas per se, but Sue's got a pretty nice bank, and investing into, okay, 6 Corruptors will be the choice. I was gonna get into the fact that like some Zerg players, they like Mutas because they can lead to base trades and blah, 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 but that's not actually what's happening here, so we don't have to sweat it. So the Disruptor's just cleaning up some creep for the time being. Here come those very, very annoying banelings. They keep tweaking the baneling damage. Right now, ultimately, baneling damage versus light units doesn't change at all, but they keep making it so it's weaker versus armored. Ideally, you don't have an army of banelings that can just wash over a Protoss army of stalkers, which is unfortunately something we see pretty frequently. I just want to point out how cool this is too with the Disruptors cleaning up the creep. They're very non-committed. They can evacuate very easily with that Warp Prism. So if you put stalkers or zealots out there, they might get caught, but yeah, escorting this has worked out pretty well for him. The Colossus is set up here so perfectly with those force fields tearing things down, but there is a back attack he's got to look out for. Sue coming in for the top of the ramp. Big Bailey's denying this. Corrosive Bile's going to go to break the force fields, but even then, the Disruptor shots. Wait! Oh my god, that was so sick! Party's gonna hold this. He's got it. There's no way he doesn't. He might lose the Colossus for it, but between his stalkers and any warp ins, Sue's army was effectively shut down. And look, I know you guys hate when I do replays and I do rewinds, but we gotta rewind it and rewatch that moment. One more. Okay. I don't care about a single other thing. I just want to put how sick this is. Party's going to put down like 3 force fields, and I don't know whether he does this intentionally or by mistake. I gotta pause it when it happens. Look at this. Look at this. He's left a spot up here, right? Now, again, intentional or unintentional, he capitalizes on this because there's only one way for these units to funnel in, and that Disruptor Ball just sits there waiting, and it so perfectly lands on all the banelings. Oh, that was so well executed. Again, Party is the type of guy who I can believe plans something like that, but I can also see just seizes the day, grabs the opportunity. That was so sick. Sue has lost the majority of his army for this. He doesn't have a crazy huge bank, and those Corruptors are not ready to turn into Brood Lords. Frankly, he's building Banelings and Moral Roaches, and there should be a good-looking army, but they're all going to be coming in a little bit staggered if he's not careful. Now, we should know for Party, he also lost like a lot of sentries. There's not going to be a billion force fields like we just saw. There's not a bunch of zealots on the front line to take this. Oh god, the Banelings, the Zerglings even, but the Immortals hold their own. The Stalkers blink back. Sue is starting to get too much of a surround, and Party may have overstepped on this counterattack. Both players going blow for blow. Resources lost within like 1,000 of one another. Specifically more through gas than minerals, but whatever the case is, there's been a lot of things that have died this game, and Parting might not be one of them. He is down an army supply, but I think Sue's making the same problem Parting just did, where it might be overreaching just a little too far. Both players at this point really need to collect themselves if they want a chance to finish the other. So though, I do want to note that the +2 melee for Sue's really powerful in this situation, especially if it comes to banning harassment, for example. But against Stalkers, like I feel like, yeah, Blink is pretty good, but these Zerglings, if they get a surround, like Party's not gonna be able to keep up with Sue on how many bases? Like 6 bases. That being said, though, the cost efficiency and the way Party plays Stalkers is so good. I've been watching this guy for like 5+ years back in the days of like TSL, and like Party has always been really good with Blink Stalkers. They're definitely like his go-to unit. But that said, this is a lot of units versus a very few amount of Blink Stalkers. The Banelings roll in. The shield batteries are not being overcharged, and Party is losing everything here. He types GG, and Sue takes the game. Oh, that was actually so sick. That was such a good game. All right, I'll see you guys for game 2. Oh boy, I'm still recovering from that last game. It's map number 2 in what is already a very spicy finals. It is the map Everdream. Real quick intros. Bottom left, it's Parting, the blue Protoss, and at the top right is the red Zerg. It is Sue. I have a lot to remark on in terms of like how much I hate Zerg and Banelings and balance wide, but the reality is, like, I think anyone who watched that game, you got to respect the win from Sue. The macro was so powerful. As cool and easy as it was for me to get lost in the really awesome engagements, ultimately it was like 6 bases to 3. You could say 4, but Parting wasn't really mining off of that 4th one for a very long time. So respect to Sue, macro really just powering through on that one. And I think that's actually a really awesome aspect of Starcraft. I hate it because I'm not good at it, but you see a player with really good macro, whether you're talking Diamond League or whether you're talking top of Grandmasters. Oh no, I didn't realize this was a Canon Rush. Oh, Parting! Okay, this is something I've seen Parting do dozens of times, and he does it effectively the same way. The idea, of course, is like you're not typically going to get full cannons up when your opponent's got creep, but this pylon finishes, he'll clutch a cannon on the low ground. This will die, but that's okay. He'll power it. He actually, oh, he sneaks in the gateway before the unpowering. That's so important. This denies so much surface area. Now, granted, the probes, the drones are trying to get on top of this, and he really wants to break this situation, but the pylon should finish, the cannon should be powered, and while the gateway may or may not go down here, this is wasting a lot of time for Sue. Keep in mind, for Parting, his investment up to this point is a couple hundred minerals, right? And if we look at the actual income graph while this is going on, the difference is more than a couple hundred minerals that Parting's mining over Sue, because Sue's pulled so many workers to deal with it. And now on top of it, he's starting to lose drones to this cannon. Sure, he might clean this up, but I gotta be honest, guys, this is gonna be a really rough game for Sue going forward. He's just gonna be like in the gutter in a bad way. And the fact that Parting's getting these cannons set up over here means that he's gonna be able to possibly, not definitely, oh, he traps the drones in! Are you kidding me? They're stuck! But as long as one cannon finishes here, he can potentially deny the hatchery. I'm not saying that's gonna happen. He might lose the probe. Oh my god, the micro out of this probe is actually insane right now. Keeping it alive. Oh! With the probes both having gone down at this point, there's no chance to really further this. As yeah, you see he's building back at home. Because classically, that first gateway doesn't get killed. And in fact, it leads to the cybernetics core, which walls off at home, and then Parting builds shield batteries and a proxy robo. I mean, he did this to get into IEM Katowice earlier this year. I watched him do it firsthand. So this isn't something new. And if you're a Protoss player, Canon Rushes themselves are not that unique. But the way Parting does them, I can't believe he pulled that off. More to the point, I can't believe Sue shut part of this down. Normally, this is such a done deal win. But this was really well handled out of Sue as well. But the fact that Parting loses all of his front momentum, I really don't like his position going forward. You can see the way he positioned his gateway back at home, but he wants to have this kind of pathable wall. So unfortunately for him, he's not going to be able to take a Nexus right now. Ooh, possibly at all, depending on how hand this gets. Oh, that's a cannon finishing up. I thought it was another pylon for some reason. Okay, so he's good then. He's good for a couple of circlings, but still he can't really push down the ramp, nor can he go across the field. Now, if we want to math this out, remember the income graph is not exactly like a science, but for the duration of about a minute, Parting was mining 450 more minerals than his opponent. So that's kind of like 300, right? 400, 500, 600. Like, it's actually not that costly to lose all these buildings over here for nothing. But at the same time, in no way does this mean Parting's in a great spot. The follow-up to this, of course it is a Stargate. So he's not actually going to try and take the Nexus. I can see this being a smart move on his part in terms of just being able to secure a little bit of control of the map, but also be able to have some harassment out while maybe using that harassment to distract his opponent and thus safely take a Nexus. But still, he needs a Nexus because Sue is on 2 bases. Well, he's about to be. These last 2 cannons are not going to be fun to take out. It's going to be very difficult to get that queen all the way around to range the pylon. Yeah, back at home, I mean, it is an Oracle, not so surprising. And I guess, you know, there's some cool theory to this where if the queens are working very diligently to remove the cannons, then they're likely not going to be in the mineral lines protecting the drones. And that's where I can see the Oracle being a really good choice, but only if it gets a lot of kills. It's very result based on whether this was a good choice or not. And Spore Crawlers are starting up as well too. So while a Spore Crawler doesn't outright stop an Oracle, it definitely caps the amount of damage it can do because this thing will obviously die. Still though, flying in, he's going to find very little here to do, and backing away, only losing shields is a pretty solid choice. As long as the pylon's here too, there's always the threat that there could be warp ins. I don't think parting is going to warp in 4 zealots. They probably die before they really got much done. But the fact that that's a possibility is definitely going to be on Sue's mind while this is going on. And in fact, he's still... This is so... rather than deal with this, because it's going to be costly no matter what he does. Oh, he's going to warp in it. Okay. But rather than take this base, Sue opts to go for the 4th. Now, if this ends up being a really long PVZ, like we're talking 20 minutes plus, this actually benefits Sue in a great way because his safest expansion will not be the risky ones on the outskirts. It'll be the one inside that he has still yet to mine from. So there's some potential payoff to this if the game goes long enough. I really want to take a peek at the timer and see how long this game goes now, though. But I will resist. I will resist the urge for all of you fans who are watching the video on YouTube. Anyways, I love the adepts getting warped in. They've got the ability to transfer back and forth, which gives them some sustainability. The high ground vision presented by the oracles, cannons could possibly deny a gas here. They should be able to actually kill a queen if he moves back up a little bit. But, you know, between this and the oracle harassment, some decent damage been done here. I wouldn't say Sue's been devastated by this, but Parting, who was playing catch up from barely 2 bases, killing 8 drones now, upwards of 9. Ooh, but loses an oracle, not so good. And she transfers the adepts back to the quote-unquote safety of the cannon. It's 1 cannon defending at this point, but with all these adepts here, they might just hold their own against the lings. Sue realizing this is, I gotta bring the big guns, and starts rallying the queens up. This is so costly from Parting, but at the same time, not committed. He could recall, he could transfer these away. He doesn't actually have to sit here and fight the Zerglings. In fact, it'd be way better if Sue keeps all the Zerglings down here so Parting can go to the main base and kill drones, which the fake out kind of works a little bit. But with so many bloody transfuses, Sue keeps that queen alive. It's like a cat with 9 lives at this point. Well, I guess probably 6, but still. This finally gets cleaned up. This was a big thorn in Sue's side, and with that relief, he can finally take his 4th base. And as I mentioned before, this is like the world's safest 4th base ever. Party setting up some really thick SimCity here with these gateways you can wall off the side. This is really good for preventing baneling run-bys. Oh, I said I would turn off the war chest thing and I forgot to look into it. I got so excited from that first game. So sorry, dear audience. Again, reminding you, this is not the war chest team league. I guess the Oracle's still zipping around on the other side of the map, so it grabs a couple kills. But yeah, the gateway wall off is great because Zerglings can tear it down, or any kind of committed attack can break this wall pretty easily. What this will primarily prevent are these. It is going to cost so much for those banelings to go through and break that wall, much less get through it and have enough to kill the drone lines. So this is a really good investment for Parting. You could have just as easily put them in the main base, but I think this is far more effective out here. This does get really dangerous with the weapon upgrades. You know, I always feel a little bad talking about this because I know that half the people watching this know StarCraft probably even better than I do. But I also know we have a lot of people who don't follow the game super duper closely. And I would like to remind all those people that this is a very scary upgrade, because this upgrade lets banelings one-shot probes. So you go from like being a very costly endeavor to kill a mineral line to being a very cheap one, right? Not to mention it's going to benefit the lanes as time goes forward here. Okay, that's a lot of sentries. They don't get caught by the back end, or banelings don't wreck them. These sentries are so scary. There's not that many Ravagers right now, which means there's not that many ways to break the force fields. Ultimately, in a good choke, this favors Parting really heavily. Oh no, force fields are going up, but the stalkers blink away, abandoning the sentries. Several of them go down to the lings. He's cutting backwards now. The roaches give chase. Oh, the sentries are fighting some sick hits on these. The banelings are getting some sick hits on the sentries. Too much action going on in my brain, but still, this was a fight for Sue that had no baneling speed. It didn't have +2 weapons. Frankly, it was a little unfavorable when you think about it, but Parting's positioning really did not work out for him there. I love the use of stalkers like this too. Like, they're not really units that are supposed to sit there and fight. You're supposed to be very active with them, blinking them to the side and hit and running. And in doing so, he shaves off a very little, but still some of Sue's front line. Back at home, Colossus, but also second Robo finishing up. So we should have some pretty good production out of Parting. And one of the big problems with game one was like he did open with Colossus and Disruptors. He had a lot of area of effect damage. And that's why he was able to take that first fight versus Sue. The one that ultimately killed him was because he got overwhelmed, and without Storms, without Colossus, without Disruptors, I don't even think there was Archons at the end. There's just no splash damage to keep up with the way too many Zerglings and Banelings and everything that there was. Ooh, this is getting a little dicey back at home. Sentries are so expensive. Stalkers also getting caught in the middle. Do not bode well for Parting. But anyways, going back to what I was saying though, I think that if he's got these units out, he should have a better fight, ideally. But it doesn't mean he's going to have them out in time. Stalkers run back to the gateways. Blinking into safety works out for him. The Oracle in the meantime could have cast Revelation. Either way, he saw where the army was. Oh, I like the stasis trap going down. Excuse me, stasis ward. But let's be real. I don't think anyone's ever called these a ward. They're stasis traps, okay? Wardy is something you do when you want to watch bad StarCraft. But no, all seriously, War Stasis Trap, whatever you know it as, this will be just an early warning that an attack's coming. Although I guess not that early, but still. I like the use of the Oracle here. Revelation does not last nearly that long, and I think that trade-off has made things like Stasis Wards a lot more attractive. Granted, we've always seen Protoss players use Stasis Wards, but I think very, very recently, like since that patch that changed it, we really have seen that be the priority. In terms of army for Sue, though, because we spent a lot of time looking at Parting, right? A lot of Banlings, a lot of Zerglings, a lot of macro. That's the name of the game here. Sue's currently on 91 Zerglings, which admittedly is a lot of Zerglings, but especially when you compare it to what the size of Parting's army is. But it's not about the size, it's about how you use it. And for Parting, he does have a lot of these Colossus beams flying. Add in a couple force fields, and it can be very difficult for Sue to actually connect. Also, a quick, very healthy reminder that Banelings are not considered light units, so they do not take bonus damage from the Colossus. But they have such a small health pool, it doesn't really matter that much. And as you can see, they get cooked up behind those force fields. Corrosive Bows break the force fields initially, and that lets a lot of Sue's units through, but that cost efficiency there was just beautiful. Now, granted, Sue's got like round 2 and round 3, but he's just used up a lot of his bank remaking the Banlings. And more force fields are here and ready to go. The Corruptors try to commit to this. They will dive on top of the Colossus, but the Colossus have already done their job. They got rid of a lot of the front line, giving these Stalkers the ability to fight where they couldn't before. Banlings continue to roll in, though. Parting, not looking so good anymore. He's gonna tap out. Oh my god.
Just fucking talk about the game.
Sue goes up in the series 2-0. But of course, that's where this gets really important because it's a best of 5. So I will see you guys for game 3. Wow, we're really far out there. Let's get back into the game. All right, welcome back everybody. It's game number 3. It is very much so the last life of this guy. In the top right of Pillars of Gold, we have the blue Protoss Parting. Into the bottom left, we have his opponent, the red Zerg, Sue. Sue's leading 2-0 in his best of 5. If he can close it out here, it's a done deal. This is really surprising to me because Parting is such a good player. And like I mentioned earlier, I thought his PVZ was looking really good. But one thing I haven't gone over yet is the pricing for this. For those who are unaware, the weekly cup actually boasts a $400 prize pool. And of that $400, $200 goes to first place, $100 goes to second. But oh, these are mind games. This is kind of cute. More valuably, there are ESL Pro Tournament points, so that affects the global standing of these players. But it's like 10 for first and 5 for second. Not that big of a deal. But Parting, if you guys recall, in game 2 did open with a Canon Rush, and I kind of like this really early probe because he's gonna do dumb things like this where he messes with the minerals and the close mineral patches and possibly harasses, but it also kind of initially looks like a Canon Rush. And if Sue had just blindly overreacted by pulling 3 drones, Party would have been very satisfied with that result, but not gonna work out quite like that. However, it was a gateway on the low ground, which means he should have a pretty safe expand, yep, to his natural base. I gotta tell you guys though, I can't wait. Just a side note here for the new seasons of maps to come out, because you know, very standardly in StarCraft 2 for years, we've had 3 layers of terrain, right? You have like low ground, middle ground, and high ground. But one of the biggest changes that came out within the map editor in the last patch of the game was you can now go up to like 15 layers or something. And I'm not talking about a Zerg player who doesn't know how to macro. I'm talking about like in terms of terrain. So I feel like we're going to see some really cool stuff. Maybe not initially, because Blizzard's probably going to keep it safe and not be too dynamic with the maps. But I really want to see like 5 or 6 layer maps in the future. I think it'd be really cool. It also creates some very interesting ways you can create defensive terrain and offensive terrain specifically around the natural base. But regardless, that's all stuff that's like to come, and nothing's happening yet. We're still on boring old normal maps. Ooh. Yeah, Sue, I really respect him as a player. I've been a big fan of Sue for a long time in terms of Zerg and Korea especially. Did not expect him to be up 2-0 versus partying though. And I think if this was like a more nameless Protoss player, like you got Korean players out there who are just kind of on the unknown side of things, I think this is expected for sure. But not versus partying, and especially not how good this has been. The Colossus play has been fantastic, but it's also not been working out with them. I'm hoping we see a change up here. I do know from recent experience casting players like Deer and a few others that storms have been particularly effective, and High Templar usage always looks good, but we haven't seen any of that out of partying. Also, please pardon that random sound effect. That's an alert that I don't know how to turn off while I'm recording. So this adept will poke and prod and not really get much done. Oh, Stalker almost gets the Overlord. 8 HP. You hate to see it. Super frustrating. But speaking of new map dynamics, this was another one that we've seen getting pushed out more, where this sort of safe Overlord spot is getting further and further away, and the scouting is becoming a little bit less free for Zerg all the time. I think Overlords are a very, very essential part of the early game scouting to know what your opponent's doing. I don't think we should ever take away the ability for Zerg to scout like that, but I do like that it's becoming a little bit more of a risk evaluation. You can't just send an Overlord across the map like your first Overlord and have free scouting for 8 minutes like you used to. I mean, even over here, it sees a very limited amount of the base. Successful. I kind of hope he rallies the second Oracle, not across the field, but just so he can kill the Overlord. I think denying the scouting is more valuable than 2 extra worker kills, for example. And that is exactly what he's doing. The Stalker's also super out of position, so he's not killing it. Of course, a lot of this was because he was microing the Oracle on the other side of the field. So he keeps that other Oracle alive, which is pretty big. That's going to aid out with any kind of defense in the early game. I mean, Zerglings are just not going to hold up. They just really won't. Not against 2 Oracles firing away from the sky. And between the Adepts and the Sim City at the third, that's tucked in really nice. Little less safe there with that Stalker. Kind of had a bit of a hold my breath moment, but I think he could have warped in units behind it. It wasn't going to be that desperate of a situation. Yep, just like that. We do see the Dark Shrine follow up rather than the Templar Archive, so it looks like we're going to be sticking more to Archons for now. And again, I'm not trying to overly scrutinize parting. I think a lot of what he's doing is fine. He's just getting outplayed or outhandled or maybe mismatched with the way Sue's been playing things. So I feel like parting's gonna have to react. I know he's going with these builds that he's just like set to do. And I'm sure maybe one of them works, but I just look at that 2-0 score and think, buddy, give it the old Mr. Hooks, buddy. Yeah, the Dark Shrine will be pretty clutch here. I don't think we're on layer tech for Sue. No, so there's no forward overseers, meaning that any attack that comes his way could and should be stopped by Dark Templar. And if he holds this is really committed out of Sue. Like this decision out of Sue makes a lot of sense, right? He's up 2-0. He wants to close it out with a 3-0. He's going for this big brute force all in to try and close out the game. But it's not going to work. The battery overcharge is doing a great job keeping a very few amount of units alive. Forcefield goes down. Ravager breaks it, but these 2 DTs have already killed most of the army. I mean, the power for Sue in this comes from the Ravagers more than anything else. And they are squishy and vulnerable, and these DTs should be able to hunt them down. The only thing they're not really going to chase are the Zerglings. Sue, by the way, the predictive shots trying to catch the DTs was pretty cool, but a double kill swipes 2 of the Ravagers down. And while we have a layer on the way, and I'm sure Spore Crawlers, yep, there's no real death from the DTs back at home, but this was really bad for Sue because he did cut workers to make this happen. Sure, he is on 3 bases, but I think if we check the mining here, it's going to be favoring our blue boy pretty nicely. Not really a lot of room for these Zerglings to do much. Extra shield batteries were made in anticipation of that fight up top taking a bit more of a committed churn, so it is really weird to see 3 shield batteries, and they're kind of affecting the mining a little bit, but it also solidifies that they're just not going to die. Like, nothing there's going to die to a couple Zerglings. It's going to take a committed force from Sue to actually kill this third. Wait, he's like kind of blocking out his gas as well. They're taking this very weird route, but he can't kill the pylon. He needs it for power. Oof. Well, not ideal and certainly not perfect. This also doesn't get parting killed. This is just a small disruption that's kind of more annoying to, I think, us, the viewers, than him, the player. That being said, though, I do want to draw attention to the resources lost after that first engagement. I don't think this is at all surprising to anyone. You know, the DTs were never going to be detected, so it was just it was free real estate. And parting with that big resource lead also has a big income lead. So kind of double dipping now on why he's going to have, or should have, a much bigger, better army. He doesn't have 15 zealots and a huge wave of attack, but he does have very strong units with these archons, with his immortal, these sentries. Force fields are going to be so powerful here because there's so few Ravagers currently in play. This party dodges a lot of these corrosive biles, just going to end up being wasted. Ravager way too far forward. Stalker's warped in to help push the issue here. Remember, he's got Blink as well. Oh, eats a pretty bad corrosive bile there, to be honest. Losing the Archon's no fun. I guess there was a counterattack with the Zerglings, but these are going to be driven off. Again, cannon, shield batteries is all too much. 4th base from Sue. This should be canceled. He lets it complete. Oh no. Well, that's not that's not good. The sentries are left a little exposed. I'm having a little bit of a, I don't know, deja vu with this fight. Sue's up only 10 army supply, but it's roaches and ravagers, so I don't take too much stock in the actual supply. Stalkers over here, of course, blink forward, puts their blink on cooldown. Party's really extending with this one, but he's also still reinforcing. That immortal, by the way, just jackhammering on all these roaches, picking up the kills, cleaning house. Sue taps out, and Party holds his ground here in game 3. It's game number 4. Still his last life. Oh, I guess there was a pause at the start of the game. Still his last life. Still fighting from behind. To the bottom left side of Golden Wall, we have the blue Protoss parting. And his opponent to the bottom right will be the red Zerg Sue. I love Golden Wall. It's a fickle map that has a lot of really cool potential. I believe it was Rogue in the War Chest Team League. Funny enough, got rid of that reference only to bring it back. It was one of Rogue's games in the War Chest Team League where he got shut into his natural and just chose to mine out the back and expand this way. And it was really awesome. I love watching games like that. Or maybe it was Lambo. It's one of the Zergs on my team. But the point is, I love that this map presents that kind of opportunity without it being super broken. That being said, this is also a map that I think can be pretty good for Zerg in general, not just because of things like the gold base potential, which, wait. Okay, that still walls off. I'm having a moment where I'm like, wait, there's like a way to walk through that, but that's not, that's actually not, it just graphically looks weird. Anyways, for Sue, I hate to say it, Party, I'm really liking his position in this series. Even in the game just now that he lost, he kind of lost to his own decisions, not to anything Party necessarily did. Like, to do the all-in without proper scouting, to do the all-in without realizing or considering DTs. This was a choice Sue made to try and close out the series quicker. In doing so, it actually takes him to a 4th game, giving Party another chance to fight back. And if Sue makes another decision like that because he's trying too hastily to finish the series, well, maybe that's where Party actually does take this to game 5. But a 3-base opening, a pretty greedy 3-base opening too, but like still a 3-base opening nonetheless. Funny enough, without the gold, still puts Sue in a pretty good spot in terms of if he wants to play this out economically, but I'm kind of watching the drones for a little bit. Not right now. We're talking a little bit closer to like 22 to 26. That's typically where, if Zerg players are going to cut worker production and start going all in with Lings, where people do it. Actually, I hadn't really considered that till just now, but Parting is really notorious for doing low ground pylons like this. And he is lost to like just basic Ling all-in, something we haven't seen Sue do in this entire series. And like we joke about it all the time, but there was an event we hosted here where we had Parting play versus a bunch of noobs on the channel. And Parting lost to some like Platinum League or Diamond League players named a Sharpshooter. Forever he'll be famous on our channel for this because he beat Parting. But the reason he beat Parting was because Parting did what he always does, and he puts a very wide opening on the natural as he takes his Nexus down here, leaving the opening for this pylon to be picked off. And when it is, well, that's the game over for Protoss players. So I know this. Our low league newbie from chat knew that. Most people who watch Parting know this. I have to imagine Sue also knows this, yet he is he's made a conscious decision not to do that kind of Ling all in, which I find very interesting, especially when we consider how he tried to end the series in the last game. Parting sticking with perhaps a little bit more of the standard. Warp Prism with DTs is pretty common. Get a little bit of harassment. If you can't get harassment done with the DTs, you back away, you make Archons, you go back in. We've seen it happen thousands of times. So I think a big question is whether Sue's going to have Spore Callers or not. If Sue has detection, Parting will likely not be able to do too much with the DTs. It'll put Sue on the defensive regardless for the next few minutes of the game once they get out, but he should by all means be able to hold this. The only real threat, quote unquote, is the fact that he is spread out between 3 bases. And while this is an advantage through money and economy, there's a huge weakness in terms of having what few units that he has in the right spot to intercept Parting's Adepts or DTs. Pretty slick spot for the Adepts to hide in, by the way. Not gonna work out perfectly, but this is definitely better than leaving them out in the open. Warp Prism, by the way, only has 3 Dark Templar inside of it, and the Spore Crawlers are completed. So sadly for Parting, there won't be a freebie through DTs, but I think the second he realizes that these are getting seen, he should pull back. He should pull back. He should pull back. I don't know, guys. He goes to the Queen. This seems like so needlessly greedy. He doesn't even get the Queen. Literally 1 HP. Are you fucking kidding me? Oh, this is so bad for Parting. Counterattack attempts to go off. He does get the wall though. Another big defense here could be held by DTs in a pinch, because there's still no lair. That's actually a pretty clever spot for the DTs on the ramp like that. Knowing that there wouldn't be any means to get mobile detection out. He could just take control of the ramp for a time. And okay, hold on. Starting to make this look a lot better than it was moments ago. Queen's going down. I mean, there's nothing to shoot the Warp Prism, giving these DTs a lot more free reign than they frankly deserve. He's gonna drag and drop on top of the Queen too, because the Warp Prism's faster, but I don't know. Party's thrown away a lot for this. Meanwhile, Zerglings start breaking the wall on the other side of the field. These DTs were warped in, but perhaps a little too late, so 5 Lings do make it to the main. Party's already in a pretty delicate economy. Hopefully this doesn't disrupt him too much. What's I gonna put him at here? Yeah, he was actually doing really well, all things considered, up until this point. The Warp Prism is still alive with Dark Templar. They're really weak. I just wish he'd make him into Archons and just do the classic harass, but he's been so distracted by these Zerglings. And I don't mean this in like a haha way, but this is like a serious problem, right? So he's taking his 3rd down here. He's minding this out. He's got a back base because he knows the front's going to be a problem. That's not going to hold. Pylon? Oh my god, I'm just sitting here like, Parting, you're killing me, dude. You're killing me. Yeah, Sentry or 2 to buy some time, but Sue's flooding lots of Lings here. If these kill the Cyber Core, that's where this gets particularly awful. But it looks like with the Sentries and the Force Fields more notably, he will hold this. Simultaneously, Dark Templar are doing some harassment on the other side of the field, but realistically, not getting a lot done. The damage difference between the two is not that great, but a lot of it comes from the ebb and flow of the economy. You know, Sue not making drones into Sue building drones, and then parting getting some harassment done and back and forth. Looks like the middle of the map was opened up. Where, over here? Okay, yeah, so he's mined out a couple of the mineral patches, so the Zerglings could potentially get around. I love this setup out of parting though. Like, he knew going forward and taking this base would be way too risky, so he secures the back base, and I really like this. This Warp Prism has taken a lot of hits this game. I don't know where this goes from here. I was expecting like layer into Spire so long ago, but it's layered for the sake of roaches and roach speed and overseers, which are not bad. But I think like you really could have run train if this was like a muta harass game. Regardless though, we take a look at the units lost, and I mean, it's not that crazy. Party's lost more buildings really in terms of costliness. Sue in the meantime is also just jackhammering out roaches like no tomorrow. He's going to have, he already has double the army supply. I really feel like this is going to be unstoppable, like total swarm status. Parting doesn't have a proper concave up here. He's actually, with this gap, gives a lot of advantage to Sue, who's going to walk up here with these Ravagers and roaches. DTs on top of the Ravagers initially though are a good start for Parting's defense here. He could hold this if he kills all the Ravagers, but that's a big tall order. Here comes the Overseer. DTs will not clutch this game. Sentries, Stalkers, Disruptor in the back. I mean, there's a lot of tools. Oh, but Party's got to use them all best of his capabilities. Shield battery unpowered on the bottom right. Stalkers fighting very scarcely here on the top left. The concave for Sue, I don't know on this one. Like, I'm looking at the army supply, and it doesn't feel like it's 90 versus 30. In fact, it feels like almost the reverse looking at this at a glance, but he's pushed off 14 workers, killed through this. Mining still continuing very stubbornly for Parting, seeing the cost of even more workers. He's trying to expand while this goes on too, so like there's another plan if this base falls, but this base wasn't just a mining base. There's a lot of his production here. His gateway count's been brought down from like what was 6 or 7 or 8 now down to 5. One of them's even unpowered. Disruptor's also not off of cooldown just yet. Oh, it's so close. It's so close. Fire that shot. Fire away. Fire away. Fire away. And with that, he pushes this off. But I mean, the attack's not done. It's still 107 supply. Okay, 96, but still a lot of supply to go up against. And Sue is just reinforcing down the middle of the map. Parting's bleeding out. But again, his kind of saving grace in this game would be the fact that he did take this base. And if those probes had just been transferred from here down here, I think he'd be in a much more better, excuse me, English. He'd be in a much better fighting position. That said though, man, I don't know, guys. This is a tall order. Disruptors are good. The shots have been pretty solid so far. Let's see, what are the kills on these? 10 and 11. So they paid for themselves. He's building 2 more at a time. I don't know. I really think if Parting didn't lose those probes, I would really like his position in this game. But the fact that he lost other probes and now he has no means to defend his back base. Oh, he's transferring over. This is not where he oh no. Stalkers blink desperately, putting a blink on cooldown for most of them. Disruptors reach the front line. Sue starts splitting. But goddamn, this man might not need to split or spread that much if he can just bully his way in here. He still has an attack coming up from this side, which means the main is very exposed. Parting's doing the best of his ability to dance around here, and admittedly he's actually holding off Sue, but he just doesn't have the units to be in 2 places at the same time. So he's warping on the high ground just like in full anticipation that he's going to lose the natural base, right? Like, this is gone. There's no salvaging it. Sue, on the other hand, oh god, takes big hits from these disruptors. I mean, these things are cost efficient if nothing else. Well, some of them are. 15 kills on one. 3 on the, okay, I'm clicking on the wrong ones. It doesn't matter. The Stalkers lose the defensive fight over here, which means the probes are going to be in trouble. Warpins going in the main base means there's not warpins going in over here. More units are dying. Party's economy is getting absolutely demolished while this is going on. Like, another 19 workers die. I'm going to bring up the income graph and I'm going to hate seeing it. I already know it. Yeah. Oh my God. Party's gonna hold and stabilize, quote unquote, but I don't think he's got a playable position, being down nearly 1,500 minerals income. Like, to be clear, Sue's taking a gold base, he's taking all these other bases, he's just so good to go, and there's no harassment going on whatsoever. No Archons distracting him, no DTs being cheesy. Everything from Party's been in the defense, and granted, pretty solid defense at that, but still, big question, was it enough? Like, I have faith in Disruptors to just absolutely wreck Roaches and Ravagers on a good day. But there's Zerglings coming out now. And the problem is the Zerglings are a lot harder to target and they're a lot smaller. So dodging these Disruptor shots gets a little bit easier for Sue. The Banelings, I'm not loving so much. I don't know if Banelings will be super amazing or not, but it doesn't really matter. Roaches storm the main base. DT's come in for the clutch defense, but the Dark Shrine's probably going to die. Which means bye-bye DTs. That's the end of Party's salvation. Oh my God, there's no cannons or batteries or anything. Meanwhile, it gets caught out here. Zerglings on top of the Stalkers, picking off the Disruptors. Banelings rolling in. Roaches dying. Corpses flying. The Party's on the retreat, and there he's going to tap out. Wow. Sue ends up taking this series 3-1, being the ESL champion, but also taking down Parting. Make sure if you guys like these videos, please do me a favor, hit that like button. That's all I ask, and I'll see you on the next one.